Fire season is putting another Canadian community under threat this morning, and hundreds of people are fearing for their homes. We have new images from Fort Good Hope. That's a fly-in community in the Northwest Territories. A wildfire is burning on the edge of that community, and more than half of the 500 people who live there are now forced out of their homes. They've been taken to safety in an emergency evacuation by both boat and plane. And Marianne's going to be tracking the very latest on this story today. So this morning, as we start our broadcast day, where do things stand both with the fire, Marianne, and with the evacuation?
Yeah, we're really tracking how close this fire is getting. It is still at the edge of town. No structures have been damaged, but we are looking forward to an update from officials in the Northwest Territories that's happening later today. But that evacuation order does remain in place for those who live in that community of Fort Good Hope. More than 500 people live there, and it is, as Heather, you mentioned, a fly-in community. So the only way in or out right now, as that smoke continues to grow and that fire gets ever closer, is by boat or by plane. There were evacuation planes that were flying in and out, just more than a dozen of them over the weekend, taking more than 200 residents from the community of Fort Good Hope to the nearby community of Norman Wells. That's a 20-minute flight away. Those who were not leaving by boat by plane, were left by boat to a nearby fishing camp about 15 kilometers away. A very scary scene for them as they saw this as they were leaving their communities, worried about their homes, all of those big flames and smoke as well. 12 residents, we also know, went to the community of Delaunay. And they're just waiting for more information from those who are on the ground. But as I mentioned, fire crews have managed to keep this fire at bay, prevent it from advancing into the community. It is believed at this point that this fire was started by an abandoned campfire. There are also dry conditions here, and that's why they are really concerned about how active this fire could be over the next few days. Here's more from officials on the ground about how they are trying to stop this fire from getting closer to the structures in that community.
We now have 3 helicopters up from 1 that are going to be working to suppress that fire, to reduce the likelihood of its growth, to protect structures, and to support those ground crew efforts and suppression. We're going to have air tankers, and do have air tankers active in the area in order to reduce the intensity of that fire. Again, our number one focus here is protecting everything we can in Fort Good Hope going forward.
Meanwhile, residents and community members in Norman Wells, which is where those who took those evacuation flights were brought to over the weekend. They've been preparing these cots here. The mayor of Norman Wells also saying that there would be warm meals for those who need it. It's not clear exactly how long residents will be out, but they are expecting to be there for several days. As I mentioned, dry conditions in the forecast for at least 72 hours. No precipitation in the forecast. So it's going to be quite a time for them to be out of their homes for the next few days. We also know, Heather, that there was a flight back into Fort Good Hope yesterday to bring some essential workers there, paramedics, as well as those who work with water and sewer, even the grocery store, to help support those frontline workers who remain in the community.
So we know where they are at that fishing camp, or also at Norman Wells. How are they? How are the people coping being away from their homes?
It was a chaotic time for them, a very scary time for them. We were looking at some of the images there of the fire and the smoke, and that was captured by one of the residents there named Thelma, who captured this on her cell phone. And she spoke to us, though she is in an area where, as you can imagine, cell phone reception not the greatest, but she did explain what this has been like for her.
It was scary. It was heartbreaking, not knowing what it could reach our homes, because my house is right around where the fire was. I thought I was gonna lose my home. I thought I was gonna wake up to them saying my house burned, but I'm happy that there's no homes or buildings lost, and pretty much have it under control.
So some peace of mind for residents like Thelma who have been displaced, but it is still a very much active scene. So while residents and officials know that no structures have been damaged right now, as we know, Heather, this is going to be going on for the next few days. And we're looking ahead to that update from officials in the Northwest Territories happening later today.
Thank you very much, Marianne.